fucking with the ghost.
So earlier today, I was on YGO Pro grinding with Zodiac, trying to test the deck against the best decks in the metagame. And after several rounds of testing, I found a very, very unfortunate flaw in Zoo that is very difficult to reckon with, considering I don't really know how to fix that issue. And that is that the deck has absolutely no out to Dragoon, or at least not a practical out to Dragoon. Ah yes, good old Dragoon, the card that single-handedly warped the entire OCG format and is now entering into the TCG. The real question is, however, how do we deal with it? Well, in this video I will be covering quite a few outs to Dragoon that I have considered in my own strategy, that being Zoo, and that you can employ in your own strategy as well. All of the cards that I'm going to mention in this video are either direct outs or indirect outs, but still valid outs to deal with Dragoon. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the list. So herein lies basically every viable out that I feel that is worth considering for Dragoon. So I'm going to start off with the main deck and only reflect to the extra deck when discussing one specific option, that being Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. So as you can see, starting off, we've got the Kaijus, Gameciel, Doggeron, Thunder King, Lightning Strike, Jizikiryu, whatever the heck that thing's called. They just tribute over Dragoon. Dragoon can't be targeted or destroyed, but there's nothing about it not being able to be tributed, so just tribute over it, my dude. Same goes kind of for Sphere Mode, although Sphere Mode is a little bit different just because it requires a little bit more of a specific game state in order to be summoned, but the logic is still there. Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. I actually wanted to talk about this card a little bit because not only can this card hit Dragoon, but it also actually isn't the worst against the metagame right now. If you take a look at, for example, Infernoble Knight, which isn't meta, but it's tier 2-ish, on the teetering on tier 1, hitting Isolde, hitting Needle Fiber in the combo decks, especially against like the tier 1 decks like Adamancipator and Synchro Eldritch, hitting cards like Needle Fiber can be really, really powerful, or Link Cross. So I do think that Winter Cherries has an argument as a very, very good side card for Dragoon as well, just because it also has other applications in the meta. Super Poly is just good because it requires just attributes or types that are on the field that match up with the targets in your extra deck. So it's just pretty simple removal that your opponent can't really respond to. Speaking of not responding, I mean, Dark Ruler No More is probably one of the best just negation cards in the game today, just because your opponent can't really respond to it unless they have some Solemn somewhere. But just being able to negate Dragoon without targeting or destroying it via Dark Ruler is just really, really powerful. Moving on, we've got 3 Tactical Talents. This card actually has a really niche application. Because it doesn't target, you can, if your opponent tries to use New Dragoon to negate one of your cards, you can use 3 Tactical Talents to just take the Dragoon and link off with it. Forbidden Droplets is another option, although I'm not really too keen on this card. I do like the fact that it's a quick play though, which is kind of really cool. As far as the extra deck monsters are concerned, there's also a lot of outs in the extra deck that people might not have considered, but I think are really good options. Boral Sword is a good one because it can just gain the attack of Dragoon and then just beat over it that way. It also is worth noting that Boral Sword can actually crash into Dragoon, assuming Dragoon has not used its effect to gain attack. So, and your Boral Sword will still live, so that's worth mentioning. Speaking of the Boral boys, Borreload is another really neat option because not only can you make your opponent's Dragoon lose 500 and they can't respond to it, but you can also take their Dragoon and then like use it on their turn to negate something they have, which I thought was kind of funny, so I wanted to mention it real quick. Avermax is another option because you can crash into the Dragoon, and then at the end of the damage step, you can spin the Dragoon back to the extra deck. Appaloosa is an interesting one because of the fact that if it does have 4 materials used to summon it, it can actually beat over Dragoon because it'll be at 3,200. Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos is another good one just because you can just crash over something and then just banish the Dragoon. Just banish it. Just say no, no, bye, and then just make it leave. It's pretty simple. If you do have access to a tuner, you can also summon Morlode Savage Dragon, and its effect to equip a link to it will actually make it bigger than 3,000, so you can just beat over the Dragoon that way. Crystal Wing will actually just beat over Dragoon just using its effect. So if you can make the Dragoon bait its negate on something else and then summon Crystal Wing, you can just out the Dragoon that way by using Crystal Wing's effect. Utopia the Lightning is kind of an old school one as well, but it's one of my favorite cards, so I wanted to mention you just pump it up using its own effect and your opponent can't really do anything about it. So that outs it. Another option that people don't really think about as much, but you can utilize it because it is a generic rank 8, is actually Dingirsu. So Dingirsu, in theory, is an Orcust card, but because of the fact that you can just slap down 2 level 8s and just summon Dingirsu over on top of them, I mean, it sends. It sends. Anything with send on it just gets rid of Dragoon. Obviously, you're going to have to bait the negate first, but once you can do that, Dingirsu will out the Dragoon. But moving on to one that you probably wouldn't have thought about, Dugaris. I thought this one was kind of interesting because if you have something that's over 1,500 attack, you can summon Dugaris and make it use its effect to where it doubles something's attack on the field. So you can just double the attack over maybe like a 1,600 beater, and then all of a sudden you've got a 32k beater, assuming it resolves. But you can Dugaris something to beat over Dragoon that way. And finally, we have our Super Poly targets, both Starving Venom and Mud Dragon for the Super Poly. This is a little bit different. I don't know how to feel about Super Poly, but I just felt like it was worth mentioning because it's a card that your opponent can't really respond to. There's not really a whole lot of cards and decks right now that really care about being Super Poly that much, but I just felt like I wanted to mention it as an option just so people would have ideas about what they could potentially use to out Dragoon, just so people would be aware of the options that they could have. But at any rate, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this content. And if you have any other suggestions, ideas, comments, concerns, or ways that you've thought about to beat Dragoon, or what you could use to kind of bait the negate and then try to play around Dragoon, please leave them in the comment section below because I'd love to hear your thoughts. I have tested against a lot of decks on YGO Pro recently, as I was saying at the beginning of the video, and I found that Dragoon against a lot of decks is just kind of like an auto win because without a Kaiju or something in their main deck, they just cannot beat that card. So I really wanted to hear your thoughts in the comments about what could be a good side deck card or a main deck card that I didn't mention in the video, even though I didn't mention a lot of stuff, but I wanted to just kind of throw that out there to the community just to start a dialogue of sorts. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I hope you guys are staying safe. I know COVID is still afoot, but hopefully we'll be moving on out of this in a little while. But I hope you guys are staying mentally healthy, staying sane, and just enjoying as much life as you possibly can. So, at any rate, guys, it's me, it's that DMD, and y'all already know your boy is, in fact, out. Deuces.
I was walking with the ghost.